Good morning, Year 8. I hope you are well. Today we are going to continue studying dystopian fiction, focusing on examination day. So, could you please copy down the title, the date, and the learning objective? Don't worry if you don't understand the title, I will explain that in a second. Pause the video and press play when you have those three things copied down, please. Okay, if you're back, that means you are ready to complete the do now task. You need to make sure that you answer the questions in full sentences. So, how old is Dick turning on his birthday? Your answer would be Dick is turning, and then the age. That would be a full sentence. Pause the video and press play when you have completed the do now task, please. Okay, that means that you should be ready to make your purple pen corrections. As always, give it a tick if you got it right. Give it a cross if you got it wrong, but please make sure that you do write the correct answer in purple pen. So, Dick is turning 12. Dick is required to take a government intelligence test now. He is 12. Dick's mother and father seem frightened about the test. You could have said nervous, or anxious, scared, anything like that. His father is reading a government newspaper, and the government will give Dick a drink which will make him tell the truth. Pause the video and make any purple pen corrections that you need to now, please. Okay, so let's look at our key word for the day, which is also our title. Tyranny. Tyranny is cruel and unreasonable rule. So if you had a tyrannical government, it would be a government that ruled the country in a cruel and unreasonable way, often not paying much attention to the desires, the wants, or the needs of the people, and just kind of doing what they want to keep things in order. So, how would life be if you lived under a tyrant? And the tyrant is the name for the leader of a tyranny or a tyrannical government. Have a think about what life would be like living under a tyrant. You might use this image for a little bit of inspiration. Could you write 2 to 3 sentences to answer this question? Pause the video and return when you have completed that task, please. Okay, if you're back, that means you've completed this task. Now we are ready to continue reading our text, examination day. So we kind of left off at the introduction of this intelligence test, and now we're going to see how it all unfolds. So let's read. They entered the government educational building 15 minutes before the appointed hour. They crossed the marble floors of the great pillared lobby, passed beneath an archway, and entered an automatic elevator that brought them to the 4th floor. So the idea here of an automatic elevator is quite typical of dystopian fiction. Things are often quite technologically advanced because we're set in this dystopia in the future. There was a young man wearing an insignialess tunic. An insignia is like a badge or an emblem, seated at a polished desk in front of room 404. He held a clipboard in his hand and he checked the list down to the J's and permitted the Jordans to enter. The room was as cold and official as a courtroom, with long benches flanking metal tables. So this is an interesting simile here. It was as cold and official as a courtroom. Thinking about what happens in the courtroom. A courtroom is where criminals and victims are given justice for their crimes. And that's what this place feels like. There were several fathers and sons already there, and a thin-lipped woman with cropped black hair was passing out sheets of paper. Mr. Jordan, that's the spelling error there, filled out the form and returned it to the clerk. Then he told Dick, "It won't be long now. When they call your name, you go through the doorway at the end of the room." He indicated the portal with his finger. Again, interesting word there. Portal signifies the kind of futuristic feeling of the building. A concealed loudspeaker crackled and called off the first name. Dick saw a boy leave his father's side reluctantly and walk slowly towards the door. The words reluctantly and slowly here also emphasise the idea that this is something to be feared. At 5 minutes before 11, they called the name of Jordan. "Good luck, son," his father said, without looking at him. "I'll call for you when the test is over." Again, very interesting that his father's not looking at him. He doesn't seem very confident that this test is going to be easy. Dick walked to the door and turned the knob. The room inside was dim, and he could barely make out the features of the grey tunicked attendant who greeted him. It's important to notice the setting again. The room was dim. It doesn't feel like a very welcoming place. "Sit down," the man said softly. He indicated a high stool behind his desk. "Your name's Richard Jordan?" "Yes, sir." "Your classification number is 600-115. Drink this, Richard." Quite a cold greeting. He doesn't ask how he is. He doesn't, make him feel better. He's not being very kind. It's quite serious and formal. He lifted a plastic cup from the desk and handed it to the boy. The liquid inside had the consistency of buttermilk, tasted only vaguely of the promised peppermint, which means that the promise of the drink tasting okay isn't actually true, and maybe it was just his parents trying to make him feel better. Dick downed it and handed the man the empty cup. He sat in silence, feeling drowsy, while the man wrote busily on a sheet of paper. Again, this drink is obviously not good. It's made him feel drowsy. He feels weak. He feels tired. He feels a little bit out of it. Then the attendant looked at his watch and rose to stand only inches from Dick's face, which is quite intimidating, really, isn't it? He unclipped a pen-like object from the pocket of his tunic and flashed a tiny light in the boy's eyes. Again, very intimidating. It must be making Dick feel incredibly uncomfortable. "All right," he said. "Come with me, Richard." He led Dick to the end of the room, where a single wooden armchair faced a multi-dialed computing machine. So could you imagine walking into a room where there's just one wooden armchair and then you're looking at this huge computing machine, and then you've just drunk this drink that makes you feel a bit drowsy? You'd be incredibly frightened. There was a microphone on the left arm of the chair. When the boy sat down, he found its pinpoint head conveniently at his mouth. So when Dick sits down in the chair, the microphone is next to his mouth, so he can speak through the microphone. "Now, just relax, Richard. You'll be asked some questions and you think them over carefully. Then give your answers into the microphone. The machine will take care of the rest." "Yes, sir. I'll leave you alone now. Whenever you want to start, just say ready into the microphone." "Yes, sir." The man squeezed his shoulder and left. Notice the repetition here of yes, sir, yes, sir. What does it tell us about the relationship between Dick and the attendant, and also how Dick is feeling? Dick said, "Ready." Lights appeared on the machine, and a mechanism whirred. A voice said, "Complete this sequence. 1, 4, 7, 10. Mr. and Mrs. Jordan were in the living room, not speaking, not even speculating. When you speculate, you consider all possible outcomes. So if you are watching a TV show, you might speculate who the winner is going to be, who the loser is going to be. It was almost 4 o'clock when the telephone rang. The woman tried to reach it first, but her husband was quicker. Notice how quickly they both tried to grab the phone. What news are they waiting for? Good news or bad news? "Mr. Jordan?" The voice was clipped, a brisk, official voice. "Yes, speaking." "This is the Government Educational Service. Your son, Richard M. Jordan, classification 600-115, has completed the government examination. We regret to inform you that his intelligence quotient has exceeded the government regulation, according to Rule 84, Section 5 of the new code." Across the room, the woman cried out, knowing nothing except the emotion she read on her husband's face. "You may specify by telephone," the voice droned on, "whether you wish his body interred by the government or would you prefer a private burial place. The fee for government burial is $10. So, they have called his parents and informed them that because his intelligence has gone past what's expected by the government, they have killed him. He is too smart for the government. Arguably, if he is too smart, the government might think that he is going to cause problems for him. So, now we've finished reading that short story. Let's analyse. So you're going to answer a couple of questions based on this section of examination day. Sorry, it says first half, but it's meant to be second half. How does Slessor, the author, present the government building as intimidating in this section? You're going to write 4 sentences to answer, which means you're going to need to include quotes from this section and then explain. So looking at this extract, the first thing you would want to do is choose a quotation or maybe 2 short quotations about how the government building is intimidating. Think about the setting and how it's described. Think about how it might make Jordan feel. What atmosphere might it create? Then you want to write 4 sentences, including an embedded quotation to answer this question. Pause the video and complete this task now, please. Okay, if you're back, that means you've used this section here to answer this question. Let's look at our next question. How does Slessor present the interaction between Dick and the staff as cold and lacking emotion or feeling? You're going to write 4 sentences, and again, it's going to be based on this extract. Think about the repetition of the yes sir here. Remember what I said about how this man introduces Dick to the experiment. Think about how he's speaking to Dick and how is he making Dick feel. Again, you need to include an embedded quotation and then explain what that tells us about the interaction. Pause the video and write 4 sentences to answer this question, please. Okay, if you're back, that means you've analysed this extract by answering this question. Let's move on. How does Slessor present the government as tyrannical? So remember, the idea here, and I'm going to put it back onto the screen just in case you've forgotten, is how does Slessor present the government as cruel and unreasonable? That is ultimately what this question is asking you, because cruel and unreasonable is the definition of a tyrannical government. And you're going to base this section off of, you're going to base this question off of this extract. So think about how this person speaks, how is their voice described, and how do they break the news of their son's murder to the parents? And what do we think about the fact that he is murdered due to his intelligence? How does all of that show that the government is tyrannical, aka cruel and unreasonable? Pause the video and write 4 sentences to answer this question now, please. Okay, if you're back, that means you completed this task and you are ready to submit your work. Pause the video here for a reminder of how to submit your work. You can then submit your tasks and X off the video and continue with your lessons. I look forward to seeing all of your excellent hard work in my emails, and I will speak to you in the next video.